it'll be only probably to 11:30 at most. Or just before 11:30 would be over as long tonight. I meant to go live yesterday, which was Sunday, obviously. Didn't get around to say the least. So basically that's why I'm here now. Basically, because I didn't go live Sunday. So I said I'd go live for a few minutes today, and that'll make up for Sunday, because I did say it was going to be live Sunday. Again, you can never predict it, and I didn't even know myself. I only said then in the last about 10 minutes at least that it would go live, that I had the energy to go live, and etc 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 etc. So, that's basically just a last minute decision. Hello, Shawnee, how are you doing? How are we doing this lovely Monday evening? Even though it's going to be a wet day tomorrow, probably on Wednesday. It's going to be not very good. Hello, Kevin. It's a long time since seeing you. How are you doing? How are we keeping? How's she cooking? She's cooking good. Apart from maybe when the weather comes Tuesday, Wednesday, it won't go too well. Let's put it that way. We might be blown to Mexico. So hello, Moon Hunters. Hello, everyone. And I see notifications without easily enough today. So see, everything's going well. But anyway, how's everybody? Hello, Fiona. Everybody's turning up. The whole gang's turning up. It's the feds. The feds are here. But yeah, it was just kind of a last minute decision just to say. I know I said it probably would have been live Sunday, but I just didn't get around to 105 things going on. Again, it was just in the last 10 minutes I just decided to, have a few minutes to spare. I go live for a few minutes. So that was just the literally last minute decision. As usually nowadays, it's always is. It's just last minute decisions here and there and everywhere. So it's been an interesting few weeks and an interesting weekend. That's what I'm sure people have seen what happened in Canada with Zelensky and that in Canadian Parliament. It's questionable. It's really, really questionable what we've seen. If people know, they know. It's questionable. What was the same for what? I thought you said Santa Claus there for a second. I was going to say it wasn't finished. So yeah, that article, yeah. So basically, I think I replied to your comment and tried to explain. Maybe I didn't explain the best I could have. But basically, long story short, the government at the moment, the current Finnish government, it's not busting at the moment. They have the lowest opinion by the public, the public opinion, I suppose, in the last nearly 30 years. The Finnish government, the True Finns and the National Conservative, they have the lowest opinion based in the country. Basically, people think very little of them. You usually have a lot of trust in the government. Finnish people have trust in the government because it's a very trusting society. You could leave your bike on the road and nobody would take it. It's very trusting society. No bother, I probably didn't explain it. I tried to explain the best I could, but it's better if I come on actually and explain it. But basically, if that makes any sense, people have no confidence in the government. The only Joe on the street has very little confidence. As I say, mainly in Finland, it's a very trusting society. As I say, you could leave your bike on the road in Helsinki, right, for a week, and nobody would touch it down when you come back, because it's a very trusting society. That people are very trusting. The same with the government. People have trust in the government. I know that sounds weird as an Irish person. You trust the government, but people do trust the politicians in Finland compared to here. Right? Like, you couldn't trust the shower that's in there at the moment in Darlevin. You couldn't trust them. You couldn't trust them as far as you could throw them. But generally at the moment, it's the first time in 30 years that the government at the moment, the people don't trust them. They don't really trust them what they're doing. Because obviously at the moment the True Finns are just banging their heads against the wall and causing a lot of ruckus. Let's put that way. So basically, everybody's wishing that the SDLP stayed in power. So people are kind of kicking themselves in the foot. So it's not looking possible. But I hope that explains it. I know a long explanation about it. But yeah, as I say, I don't know that make any sense at all. Hello everyone. Sorry, there's about 109 people here today. But yeah, interesting. How standing on it. Interesting, indeed. But yeah, in Finland, a recent. Yeah, well, it was. I was watching Crime Code there too before I came on this evening, Kevin. And obviously, you know yourself, Ireland is literally the biggest human trafficking country in the world, and that's straight up a fact. It is literally the biggest human trafficking country nearly in the world, in Europe alone, because there's so much human trafficking coming in and out of Ireland. And if you watch that bit in Crime Code, I just watch Crime Code just to see what's on it, to see what they have to say. And there was one of a human trafficker who's from Vietnam. He was basically held hostage, basically human trafficking in a week in a cocaine farm. Let's call it that, in the west of Ireland somewhere. Like Ireland is nearly as worse. But I don't know. I never seen that episode. But I say it's a lot stricter nearly there because at this stage I don't even think they even have anybody at the ports or the airports here in this country. I think they just give up on checking anything in this country. Let's put it that way. I think they don't care in this country. They just let you in regardless. Like somebody could have 5 billion bombs in a cargo ship that's coming into the country and to just be let in. At the moment, on Garda kind of came out that there's ISIS terrorists in the country. There's people literally, ISIS members in the country. Obviously, everybody knew that because this country you could nearly come in. The most wanted person in the world could just turn up, and it wouldn't be a surprise in this country. But yeah, there's Islamic State terrorists in our country, just to say, and the Gaudi are monitoring them. So, very good, and they're very dangerous individuals, and obviously they're just walking among the population, obviously, but the guards won't do anything about that, if that makes any sense. But it's true because it was up, but so the it's a very safe country, don't you know? And I have total trust in Drew Harris, of course. But yeah, I don't know. Drew Harris needs to be given a good kick and told to go to get out. Even his own people, Galdashin kind of don't want them. So usually that means it's not bussing. So yeah. But yeah, it's a terror now of the country the way it's going. Like at this stage, we would just literally be. At this stage, we are the biggest nearly human trafficker wing in the country, in the world, let alone country. Because again, it's just it's non-existent border security in this country in regard of anything. So hello, Gimo, how you doing? But it's crazy stuff. What were you saying about Conor McGregor had a huge bounty and they said, what do you mean? They were playing Red Dead Redemption 2 all of a sudden. About bounties and stuff on people's heads. Bounties on people's heads. We're back at the Old West. Play some bounties on people's heads. So, it's crazy stuff. So yeah, but it's a terrible it's Monday already, and this is the kicker now. The next bit, that is literally the last week in September. So we're going into October. It's when? Oh, you're talking about that's not old news. Yeah, exactly it. Yeah, exactly it, Kevin. Literally anybody's just allowed to walk into the country. Uh, this country, like at least in other countries, at least they might ask you, your name and where what do you plan to do when you come to the country. Here it's just like, hello, here's your social welfare card, here's a free house, here's free dinners, free everything. Knock yourselves out, basically. You can do whatever you want. The government support you 100%. That's basically what is said in this country. At least in other countries, at least maybe in Finland and things like that. At the moment, there are a good few people who are not supposed to be in Finland at the moment. People who are legally in Finland, they're not going to be there for much longer. Let's put it that way. But it's just it's the basic security thing you should do. Because I'm sure if we went in the morning to their countries, take for example, if we went to Ukraine, I'm sure they would ask us 100 billion questions, Zelensky and things like that. They'll be asking us how much money we have in the bank account, so we can give a few bob to Zelensky, obviously. They would honestly would ask you, to be totally honest. I don't think they would not ask you. So yeah, there's supposed to be a storm coming Tuesday night, Wednesday. Going to be very high winds. It's called Storm Agnes, I think it is. Very high winds, when basically just pure shit. Oh dear. In the drone. Yeah, and there was a stabbing in Dublin airport too. Last week. And the media says it was a cry for help, the person who did it. Even though, a stabbing is a stabbing, you can't really say it's a cry for help when somebody stabs somebody. I don't know about that. Maybe you couldn't really justify that as a cry for help. It's not really any legal defense you could say it's a cry for help, maybe he was mentally unwell, but having that defense, you have to face this. He has to face judgment for it. Regardless of what was his motive for doing it, because it just seemed to be a random thing, so like it just seemed to be just completely random. It could have been anybody. It could have been, God forbid, a child on the street. And again, these people shouldn't. Some people who did this shouldn't be allowed to walk. They shouldn't be allowed to walk the streets of a country. Hello, user. How are you doing? An English person. Well, I don't think you would classify that. No, I don't think so. Yeah, it was a German tourist. It was a tourist. Obviously, being in Dublin Airport, you're going to get tourists, in the airport. More, but I'm just thinking, if you done it on the street, you could have killed an innocent child. How would I do? I'm doing that, and not too bad. Yeah, there's not that many English people. Not many. One more time. There's not many Irish people in England now compared to what it was years ago. Now, if you remember, Birmingham and different countries, different towns in England were basically full of Irish people. Nowadays, not so much. So, but there still would be a lot of paddies around different places of London and things like that. There would be a lot of Irish around. But mainly, a lot of Irish people don't go to the UK anymore. They go to Canada, and they go to the United States. They go to Australia. The main location for Irish people is Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. That's basically where they go. And why wouldn't they? Like, there was a crowd here, a Canadian company. They came to Cavan last week, and they were trying to get nurses, from a crowd in Canada, a nurse crowd in Canada, right? And they were trying to get nurses to come to Canada. And why wouldn't they, to be done answer? Like, they offered them a free apartment and everything when they go to Canada and stuff like that. So, a lot better conditions and stuff. And straight away, a lot of nurses signed the dotted line saying, I'm off to Canada. That's basically it. Even though, Justin Trudeau at the moment, you could argue that, he's getting very close to the 1930s direction. Let's put that. I'm confused where I am now. Yeah, there'd be still a lot in London, yeah, but there wouldn't be as much compared to years ago, maybe. Because, again, England is an expensive place too, the same as Ireland. And, but obviously there would be still a good few. I'm not going to say there's no blue jaw there, you know. Good evening, Evan. Only how are you doing? How are we to this Monday evening? But yeah, it's a crazy world we live in. It really, really is. The lunatics do want the asylum, but and it's fair and obvious to see that. Um, so yeah. So there were, just to say too, I know this is off topic, but there was a poll done in America, and it does look like Donald Trump, going by the poll at the moment, looks like Donald Trump is getting the majority support, so Joe Biden might not be there next year. That's what I mean. So we shall see about that, but I just said I'd bring it up because, you know, whatever happens in America will affect the rest of the world. Like, let's be fair. Uh, it's such an influence on everything, you know. So it's important to keep that in mind too. It's important to keep that in mind. What time are we at? Again, we'll be only probably to half 11 or so. A bit more than that. Being important, I remember somebody said that to me once. Now the same thing you just said. Being born on a stable doesn't make you a horse. I remember that now. That's a good one because there's a whole had somebody out of that. It's a kind of old saying, but you hear it very rarely. I heard about it. That's probably the second time in my life I ever heard that kind of thing. So you're the second time I ever heard that kind of word ever. Well, kind of that phrase. What do you call it? Sentence. Let's call it sentence. That's the best word. Not possible. Well, at this stage, I don't think it. In the world that we live in at the moment, I think you can just identify as any nationality. To be totally honest, I think you can just, especially in this country, you can just identify at a drop of a hat. I can identify now to be a Finnish citizen at the moment, because I think anything goes at this stage in this country. You just, you know, you just claim to be anybody, any place, and it's all just accepted, and nothing's ever batted an eyelid to, you know. I identify, yeah, well, pretty much. Oh yeah, Charlie, a good friend, that wanted to celebrate the Black and Tans. Unfortunately, his time is coming to an end in Dáil. A good friend, Charlie Flanagan, stepping down in the next election, just to say. Now, everybody knows Charlie. Him and Leo wanted to commemorate the Black and Tans, of course. They wanted to throw a big party and everything. And they were particularly Charlie Flanagan was very upset that he couldn't have his OIC and Black and Tan commemoration. He actually was very upset about it. Like, literally was reported in the media. Literally, they said it with a straight face, the media, that he was very upset and very devastated that they couldn't celebrate people that massacred people in the country. They were very upset about that. They couldn't celebrate people that were actually slaughtering innocent civilians and stuff like that. But as I say, anything goes in modern society. as we've seen in Canada there the other day. Anything just goes. As long as it fits the narrative, it just goes. With that. So Charlie Flanagan is not going to be there after the next election. So it'll probably be 2025 and it'll be for the next election. So all of them are jumping ship. What do you call it? Richard Bruton too. Another Fine Gael man. He's not one either. So a lot of Fine Gael people and Fianna Fáil people are jumping ship. They're jumping ship before the ship sinks. Let's put that way. The reason why, obviously, because I think the majority of people know people are not too pleased with the government and people are not too pleased with the local politicians. And that's why. It's simple as that. And they kind of know, a lot of them know, that they don't have a hope in hell in getting a seat. A lot of them. Maybe if you had maybe some of them might. But, it's particularly again, the Green Party kind of know themselves. Particularly the Green Party more than the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. They kind of know themselves, people coming for them, Eamon Ryan are probably the only TD. Like, the Green Party only going to have one seat probably in the door. The Petulians out of the seats they have at the moment. They're going to just get annihilated. In every part of the country, just wiped away. Everybody's delighted about it. I've seen it on Twitter, everybody's delighted that he's going. What age is Charlie Flanagan anyway? He must be, because if you and I were walking now in the morning and only 9 to 5 job, take for example, we'd be forced out at 60 or 65. Like, there's people I knew that were on community schemes, community schemes. And they do community work kind of in the community. And they wanted to stay on, They felt fit that they were able to go out and do their work and things like that, even though they were after 66 and still wasn't allowed to do it. Even though they wanted to, because they lived alone and they had nobody else to talk to, but, they weren't allowed to. But if you're TD, that's obviously, you're exempt for that, obviously. You're allowed to walk until fucking Christmas Day. He's 60, well, he actually is just the retirement age, 66. So he's literally just the retirement age. He's 66 in the country. So in fairness, he's retired when he's the age is there. But there's a lot of them that are just, again, I always say, but there have to be term limits too, I suppose, in terms of what age you should be. Like, obviously, there shouldn't be a TD or senator there under 91 or something like that. They shouldn't be there at that age. There should be a limit. The same as Norman Joe, 60 or 65. No, 65 or 66. And nobody can go above that limit. Because you couldn't have people just lie. Particularly because, again, as I said before, and I said it many times before, that the Shannon particularly is where people retire. You see loads of former TDs and senators, former ministers, things that they go to the Shannon to retire and they stay in the Shannon until fuck knows when. And they get a handy, cushy number, basically. So obviously that needs to just kind of change. But there's a lot of things that need to change in this country. But anyway. Yeah, that's literally what he will remember that. Like that's literally the only thing he'd be remembered for. When he wanted to commemorate the black and tans. Him and Leo, just to say, it was Leo too. But more or less Charlie too. He was the one that was most upset when people kind of uproared about it. Because I don't see it if we went over to other countries and decided let's celebrate the British Empire or let's celebrate the French or anything like that. I don't think people would be too pleased with that. You never what? No, so I suppose it's a hard one to kind of differentiate. I suppose that's the word. Like I don't really know where to stand on if somebody's born here and things like that. It's kind of hard. to determine, particularly because some of them have circumstances are different and things like that. I can kind of never get an opinion, to be honest, on it, because sometimes it can be, I don't really know what to think of it. It's hard to know, because obviously is people come here just to have a child to say, oh, I was born in Ireland, I want all the benefits of being born in Ireland, things like that. Fucking child, you might get a queue on it. Yeah, but he's going now anyway. He'll be there for another 2 years and before there's an election. Like, the government will kick the election down the road as much as humanly possible. They're not going to have what they call it in November. To change the constitution, the referendum to change the constitution, to replace the women's right in the home. Take, for example, the women's role in the home, and identify what's a family. Basically, that's basically what they change. But they kick that down the road for another while. Yeah. Woman's old. What is a woman? Shouldn't think I'd even answer that. Also, a very important video coming in the next few weeks, let's say. An important announcement. Is a question. But they're not having it anyway. It was originally planned for November to have it, but I think they're going to have it next year with the local authority elections. Also, the European elections are at that time too. But I suppose nobody really gives a shit about the European elections. Like, I'd be more worried about the local authority elections than the European elections. Because the European elections, basically, why would you care about Europe? That's the way I see it. Why would you care about Brussels? Let's put that way. Oh no, everything exposed. No. So, oh no, I've been exposed. That's enough tea for me, But yeah, we'll probably go in a few minutes' time because I have to get a bit of shut eye. Because there's walk in the morning, unfortunately. So, there's walk in the morning. You can't turn. Yeah, well, I'm happy if Tony Blair would make me an offer. Don't take that out of the context. I don't know where I haven't actually seen Tony in about 5 months at this stage. I don't know where he is. Also, just randomly, I'm just looking on Twitter here and I see this article from the BBC. That's the population of Ireland grew by 98,000 in 1 year. In a year, sorry, not in 1 year. In a year. Sorry. So, yeah. Oh, the other night, was he? He probably was. I literally, I don't remember him being here. He probably was. Hello, Shawnee. So yeah, what happened in the door? I kind of wasn't going to talk about, but there's a lot of things you need to boil down here. You know, in terms of what happened last Wednesday, wasn't it? Obviously, we have to just state the elephant in the room that people are sick of the politicians not listening to them and just ignoring people. You know, ignoring their concerns and things and just refusing to listen to people. And obviously, it's going to lead into people being angry and frustrated. And that's just as simple as that. And that's what's happening. When you ignore people, when you basically demonize and call people names and, you know, things like that, people will get ticked and get angry. And the government, we have to admit, the government have done a lot over the last few years to upset people and to annoy people. And it's not even that they tried to work with people or try to say to people, look, this is our opinion, this is what we're trying to do, or X, Y, and Z. It's that they're just kind of saying to people, if you don't agree with us, we're going to just name you as far right and you're a danger to democracy and all that. Um, and, you know, it's no engagement whatsoever with people. And that's the thing. And it leaves people frustrated and angry. And you can see that boiling over. And as simple as that, it's a sad state when your own government says to people, we don't care about your opinion. So you can see why people are upset, and people are rightly upset with the government. And the government do have to go. They have to be given in the next election. They need to be shown the door and told to get out. It's not that the representing. They're not even caring to listen to the people. That's the thing. They're not caring to listen. They just have their narrative, and then nobody else can have their own. Nobody else can disagree with the narrative. It's either their way or the highway. As simple as that. And it's the fact there's no engagement or no in between. They're just kind of, it's our way, and nobody else has an opinion. Simple as that. And when you see that, you isolate people, you make people upset, and you demonize people. You know, and it's not proper what happens. So, but yeah, but that's just the way I see it. And I know some people take it different. Now, obviously, there were some scenes that were, you know, shouldn't have happened and things like that. I will agree on that. From both sides, I would say, from Galdish and the Connor sides, and from in some, not everybody, of course, but one or two. Didn't know what the protest was about. I suppose I, I don't know. Would he have not known what the protest was about? Because you usually when the doll sits right in Dáil Éireann or Shannon Éireann, there's hundreds of every session of the doll, right? There's hundreds of protests. Everybody goes any issue at all. They go to the doll. They go to the door of the doll to bring it to them. If either that be childcare costs or hospice waiting lists and things like that. You know, there's basically nearly every day the doll sits in Dáil Éireann. There's multiple protests going on over multiple hours. So, you know, it's hard to know, but I couldn't. I would say he would know what the protest was about and the reason why people were there. So, I don't agree with that. They didn't know what the protest was about. Maybe he didn't. I'm just saying he must have known, had an idea what it was about. But it's again, it's just my opinion on it. You would listen to people. Well, I would try my best to listen to people. Because at the end of the day, democracy. The thing about democracy, and people have to understand that you can't please everyone. As simple as that. You cannot please everybody, but you can try and find a midway, a midpoint. Try and meet both sides in the middle. Not basically trying to take a bit of column B and take a bit of column A. If that makes sense, and try and balance it out. Instead of just listen to your own narrative and don't care about anybody else's narrative. Or not narrative, but opinion, more or less. Not really a narrative, but opinion. Because, as I said before, the government just care what the media and what they take, and they don't give a shit about the only Joe on the streets paying the taxes they take. They don't care about that side. They just care about their side, and that's as simple as that. And they're not bothered to really meet people, even halfway, as I often say. They're not bothered to meet people halfway, and I think it's important as politicians, as civil servants, as representatives, as different organisations and stuff like that, that everybody, you should listen to everybody, try and get everybody's opinion, try and work out the best possible way of working with people and working with different agents. Now it's difficult, obviously, when you have loads of people. You have to try and work with everybody. It's hard to please everybody, and that's the sad reality of democracy. You can't. It's simply impossible for you to please everybody. But you can try your best, and it's about just trying to get everybody in the middle and try and work with people. And it's the fact that the government don't care to work with people. And it's about that they just don't care to work with. But that's just the way I see it. I have a different kind of way of doing things than probably a lot of other politicians. But it's not an easy thing to try and work with all different kind of groups and things like that, and try and work with people. Because at the end of the day, the sad reality of it is, you could say you want to fix the world and save the world, but there's always going to be people that disagree with you and disagree with what you say, and explain that. But again, you can always try your best, and that's all anybody can do, is their best. Hello, Greenfield. Sorry, I was too busy talking. Excuse me. I was very annoyed, yeah. Back to work last week, yeah, it's already October. We're near enough October, it's the last week in September. This Sunday be the 1st of October, wouldn't it? But yeah, that's just my opinion anyway on the matters. I know people would probably disagree with me and things, but well, that's the thing too. No matter about any group in the world, like if you take all political parties, even in Ireland, you can never get everybody on the same page in regards of anything. Either be fixing the pothole on the streets. Now, straight away, if it was fixing the pothole on the streets, some people be like, let's take Fianna Fáil, be like, let's just fix the pothole. Let's just do it the basic way, the basic quick job, just fix the pothole, right? And then you have people for profit over the other side saying we should transform the street into a no-car street, and there'd be no need for potholes because there'd be no road. It'd just be all grass and things, and people can walk through the grass and things like that, and it'd be just all delighted. And actually, sorry, that should be the Green Party, not People Before Profit, obviously. And then People Before Profit would be like, we should have statues of Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, and all that lined up on every street in the country, so people have to walk by them every day of the week. And everybody's not going to agree. Even on the simplest thing, every political party and every post is not going to agree on every issue, and that's democracy, and that's nobody's ever going to agree on one thing. That's the sad reality. That nobody can ever agree, and different groups can't agree on one thing. Everybody's different opinions and stuff like that. Yeah, I seen that about Butcher by Loud. Not Butcher by Loud. Yeah, Yeah, Butcher by Loud, yeah. And Dalton. Yeah, the thing at the children's hospital. It's as I say, people are just being ignored, and that's the thing about it. People are just ignored and ignored and ignored and ignored, and eventually people are just going to be that upset about things. You know, it is important to try and see people's sides and see people's reason and different things. But it's the fact that they don't care, and I can't say that enough. But the government don't care to even care at all, to even care to listen for a second. They're just like, it's our now stuff, it's nobody else's now stuff. And, when you have that, people are going to feel abandoned and left out, and that's the word to use, abandoned. And that's why people get rightfully angry and stuff like that when your own government doesn't listen to you. But, that's just the way I see it. I know I might be delusional, let's put it that way. But the way I kind of see it is always trying to be fair with people and try and be fair with every organisation. To be fair, and that's the word, just fair, and to be fair and to be try in the middle, just to try and be in the middle of people. That's the way I see it. That's the best way to work things out. Work with people, work with every group. Because again, it's the most hardest thing is to find common ground with people. But once you break that first inch of ground, I suppose, to find the common goal. I know that sounds like a World Economic Forum statement. Now, before anybody says about World Economic Forum and stuff like that, in the pocket of the World Economic Forum, hold your wish for a second, Johnny. I probably shouldn't go there. We don't have to go there. And obviously the government are trying to be the best boys in Europe, obviously, to state the obvious. State the obvious. But yeah, I don't know. The meaning of life. But yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on. I have to say yes, but unfortunately so. Unfortunately. But not probably as bad as Leo and me whole Martin. Because I honestly don't think they could be as bad as them. Yeah, she was at the World Economic Forum when they did convene last year. But I don't know. I don't think she's that involved with the World Economic Forum. I don't think she is that involved. Like, she wouldn't be. I think Leo would be more involved with Klaus Schwab and thing. I don't think Sana would be too fond of it. That not that much. She did go to it, but I don't think she's that fond of it. Compared to Leo and to Micheál Mountain. When you just hear particularly what Micheál Mountain said, it's just basically a drop of the ocean when you hear this statement that we don't want a backwards idea of sovereignty. Straight away you're just like, can you get any worse than that when you hear that statement from a Taoiseach and a former Taoiseach too? Yeah, like the young people nowadays are forced in between the rock and a hard place. They simply have no other option but either get on the boat or get on the plane and back off, basically. That's sad reality of it, but it is reality. We have to just not be delusional when we talk about it, that it is the reality of a lot of young people now. I think we can all overlook her misdeeds. Yeah, it literally is. But I think Klaus Schwab's particularly, I know this sounds like conspiracy theory 2.0, but Klaus Schwab is very fond of Leo Varadkar. Like, he literally said about his road, young youth leader, you know. So, you know, I think he is more fond of Leo than he would be of Sana. And I do think too, because Sana would be more rebellious, let's put it that way. She kind of wouldn't, very rebellious. Because obviously, with the, Finland is a very different country compared to Ireland. And one thing is very different is if you look up Sisu, the Finnish term Sisu, if you look up that, you know, you kind of can understand why Finnish people will be a bit different than Irish people. Sisu, if you look that up, you kind of be like, Finnish people are not to be fucked around, but let's put that way. Like Holly Collins, somebody said, what's feed posting? I'm a boomer, please. I'm a boomer. Can somebody explain that to me? As long as it's not harmful or something like that, like you're not threatening to blow up the planet, like or something like that. Yeah, it was nothing too harmful, obviously. But I don't even know what feed posting is. If somebody can explain to me, please, just before you do. But yeah, Holly Collins, like the Social Democratic Party here, probably would be like the SDLP here over there. It wouldn't be the same, I don't think. Because I don't even know what the SDLP, what they stand for over here, the Social Democrats. I think they're just, I don't know what they do over here, to be totally honest. Yeah, like literally older people just stick with the same party over and over again. They will not vote for any other party. But obviously that's starting to change now. And that's what Fianna Fáil and Gael are fearing. Because back in the day, my grandfather, my grandmother, and everybody's probably grandmother, and everybody's grandmother and father and things, would have just voted Fianna Fáil, Fianna Gael, and just stick with one party for the rest of life, regardless of who it was. If it was the biggest crook in the country, they would vote for them because they were Fianna Fáil, and my grandfather was a Fianna Fáil man, and he voted for Fianna Fáil. And no, this man took €500 million out of the Irish Treasury. He's a good man. He's a Fianna Fáil man. He wouldn't do a thing. He wouldn't hurt a fly on your head. And show Jesus Christ. And that's literally the way it goes. AJS, I think, is local. Holly Collins is an actress. Oh no, she's the leader of the Social Democratic Party, but not the Social Democratic. Social Democrats, they call them, not the Social Democratic Party. Too fancy for the Irish phrases. Harry Hunt. Oh no. Not Hunter Biden, oh dear. That was you say, oh no. Alexander Cortez. Oh, I know what AOC stands for. Yeah, I know what AOC. Hello, Paddy. How you doing? Yeah, exactly what you just said. Yeah, when the government literally clap shit. I think I was going to say shit on the people, but necessarily so. You know, people are not going to be very pleased about that. Let's be fair. It's just human nature to be totally honest. People will be pleased about it. But obviously, you obviously should try, and I do say this obviously, that violence and Theo and things like obviously the government literally put the fear of God into everybody. That's literally the aim of the government nearly at this stage. It's just to make people be afraid to go out of the house. But it's important, obviously, not to get violent or things like that, because at the end of the day, violence it causes more hurt and suffering than it achieves anything. That's just the way I see it. We're just all going on about Irish politicians at the moment. Holly who capital? She's a capital. Oh, you mean by Holly Cons? You. Oh, just politically. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I get the gist of what you're saying. I was just kind of stating the general point, I suppose, Paddy. Because we've seen over the years and years and years, violence basically achieves nothing. It causes more hurt and suffering, and it's just, the way I see it, and I said it many times before, the country over the last 100 years, since the foundation of the state, probably in 1916, and even before that, during the famine and stuff like that, the Irish nation, the Irish people have suffered a lot. They've suffered a lot, and people suffered terribly years ago. Even during the troubles and stuff, people suffered terribly. And the hurt and the suffering is still an open wound in some people's lives, and still an open wound in Irish society. Even with the sort of War of Independence and even the Civil War here, you can still find it in some families that their grandfather sided with the pro-treaty side and their father sided with the anti-treaty side. You can still find them rifts in families and things like that. And at the end of the day, violence itself, not. It was just a general point, if that makes any sense. It's a general statement. Such a political term, general statement. We all just talking about random people called Holly and things like that. Do you want to hear something insane, actually? Sorry. Like, I was talking to this person when he was in my school, and he was like to me, the way Michal Martin met Sanna Marino in Finland when he was Taoiseach, obviously went over for a business trip. A few people like, could you get Michal Martin onto a live stream and ask him about the time he met Sanna Marino, what he thought of her? And I was just like, you know what, I think it probably would not be a good idea, because I probably would actually go through him, particularly for that line, as I said, because I can never get out of my head. We want nothing to do with the backwards idea of sovereignty. I literally could not sit there and not ask him that and literally go through him for it and give him a lecture on it. I literally couldn't do it. So I couldn't do it. I simply couldn't keep a straight face without give him a good telling off it. So so that's never going to happen, just to say, because he probably won away very quickly. It'd be like that time. Do you remember when there was a German news channel. They interviewed Betty O'Heron, and do you remember they asked him about where he got all his money and things like that, and he was only supposed to talk about the Good Friday Agreement, and he just bucketed out of it as soon as, soon as they asked him very tough questions. Betty O'Heron just got up and walked out. I would be very tough with me on Martin when it came to that. So I wouldn't ask him in general. Because I literally wouldn't get around to my main point. That's the thing. Like, they were asking me specifically just when he went over to Helsinki what he thought of the youngest leader in the world and things like that. Because they were like, it'd actually be interesting to hear what he actually thought about. Because obviously being somebody, and they kind of did make a good comparison. I don't know why I even bring this. Like, he's an old school politician. He's been in politics for years and years and years. And Zana is basically only there 5 minutes. He was elected in 2015 and she became Prime Minister in 2019. A big rise in politics, to be Prime Minister, And Micheál Martin was waiting donkey's years to become the leader of Fina, to become the Taoiseach. So, just to hear what I would be totally honest, it probably would drive me mad. So, I think I could understand too, it would be interesting to see. And obviously being from a different generation and things like that, So, I don't know. I don't think it ever would work out, let's call it that way. Because, I would ask him very tough questions about it. And, I just couldn't help myself, let's put it that way. I literally couldn't sit there and not bring him up on certain things. I literally couldn't sit there and stand there and say nothing about certain things. Like, I would literally just blurt them out. And I'd be very tough, basically, with him. I wouldn't let him give me half answers and stuff like that. Like, I would be very, very, very stubborn, I would generally do the same thing for everything. They want sovereignty for here, there, and everywhere, but they don't want sovereignty for your own country. That's the thing. And it's important. Sovereignty is important, as Fiona said there. It's very important. It's basically your top, but sovereignty is just the basic word to use for pride in your country and respect for your country, most of all. That you have sovereignty, that you're free to choose your own direction. And that's as simple as that. That's what I deem sovereignty means, that you have independence, that you're free to choose your own future, your own direction. But, Micheál Martin wants nothing to do with that. Which I don't know what Eamon de Valera, the leader of Fianna Fáil, the founder of Fianna Fáil, what he would say about that. But I don't even know what... I would dread to think what the people in 1916 would think of that too. Actually, speaking of your seas, the Naval Service intercepted a ship off the west coast of Ireland there, of Wexford. West Coast, sorry, that's not even the West Coast. West Coast is Mayo and things like that. Sorry, Wexford. That's be the, what's that, East Coast of Ireland. The East Coast and West Coast of Ireland. Yeah, so basically, the seas loads of cocaine and arrested 2 people carrying cocaine, multiple millions euro worth of cocaine into the country. So obviously, hats off to the Naval Service and to the Air Corps, obviously, for seizing it. Exactly, they have no respect. That's as simple as that. They have no respect for anybody. They have no respect for the country. They have no respect for the heritage. They just see big cash signs, and that's the only thing they see. That's the only thing you can see through their eyes. It's just big cash symbols. That's the only thing they see. Like, they see nothing else. Jeez, we are talking about we're all going into big discussions. Family trees and stuff like that. But yeah, so at least some drugs are not be on the Irish streets tonight, thankfully. So at least some of our sons and daughters, thankfully, will not have the cocaine on the street tonight. So, and again, Micheál Martin's the Minister for Defence. The Cod Wars, yes. The Icelandic Coast Guard bet the Royal Navy Well, basically, the only reason why they won that, like, let's be fair, because obviously Iceland's in NATO, even though they don't have a standing army. But obviously, it's a very strategic position. Obviously, being way up in the Arctic, Iceland, it's a good place for the United States to have an airport, obviously, and have a place to dock their ships in Iceland. Because obviously, the nearest other NATO country would be Norway and the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland. Or even you would say Greenland too, because they can dock in Greenland because it's part of the Kingdom of Denmark, which is a NATO too. But obviously, when the United Kingdom was infringing basically on their territorial waters, and the Icelandic Coast Guard wanted to stop them, basically just rammed away Navy ships. And when they didn't get their way, the Icelandic, they were just went to the United States and threatened to pull out of NATO. And Uncle Sam wasn't too pleased about that, so the United Kingdom sort of back off. So that's basically how they won. So don't mess with Iceland, just to say. But yeah, Iceland's a very feared country. Well, to be totally honest, that's where Vikings come from. Well, Norway was Vikings. The sad reality of it is, the Icelandic Coast Guard actually has more ships than the Irish Navy have at the moment. Just to say, because they only have 2 ships in the whole country that's on the seas, just to say. The rest of them are all docked in Porto because they can't get people to sail on them. Just to say. So the Icelandic Coast Guard has more ships patrolling their waters than the Irish Navy, which is a bigger country, first of all. And obviously a bigger population than X, Y, and Z. Because obviously, let's be fair, how many fucking drug smugglers are smuggling drugs and cocaine and stuff like that up to Iceland? Who's going up to Iceland? It'd be more people just fishing in their waters, foreign countries fishing in their waters. Like, who in the name of God would be going with big loads of cocaine to Iceland? Above all else, where would they be going to Iceland? The Faroe Islands, they do. Well, the Faroe Islands kind of is a Danish colony, and the Danish Navy is, I say, probably very bigger than the Irish Navy. I think one of their ships, one of the destroyer they have, is nearly worth the whole fleet in the Irish Navy. Because it's extremely modern, and and the kicker is that they bought 2 ships from New Zealand, and they're just kind of sitting in dock at the moment after spending 200 million on them. It works out very well for them. I know, but I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't think Iceland have a Coast Guard helicopters and planes. I don't think. Yeah, it wouldn't have Air Force planes. But it's not an easy thing to fly to Iceland now, because obviously it is a very not good environment to fly to Iceland. It's not like it's very cold. Oh yeah, the national children's. Don't even get me started. Like, even another thing, just to say, I know I keep going on about Finland. Like, they built 2 children's hospitals in Finland for the amount of money. 2 big children's hospitals, 2 big modern children's hospitals in Finland for the price they're paying for one in Dublin. Think about that for a second. 2 big modern children's hospitals to build in Finland. And they built one in Dublin that's costing nearly as much as 2 put together. And they're building the most expensive one in the world. So it makes sense, it's logical. Where money's being put somewhere, like, let's put it that way. And something's not been said. Yeah, but have nobody to sail on them first of all to put out to sea. Literally have nobody on half of the ships. There's literally nobody to send out anymore. There's nobody in the Navy. Like, they were asked by the European Union, I think, to go to the Mediterranean, but they don't have the fleet. They literally have no ships to send because they have nobody to bring out to go to the Mediterranean. So they can't do it. Anyway, lads and lassies, I do think I have to go because I have work in the morning. So either that or there'd be very little done around County Cavan tomorrow, and they'd be all given out with their useless County culture. So we couldn't have that, at the same time. People say that the councilmen are eating on shovels. We couldn't have that. I did go remember something about that, yeah. So yeah, any last words? I know that sounds a bit morbid and dormant, but any last words before we go? Thank you, Betty. I know that sounds very dangerous talk. It's the far right to the top of the any last words. Excuse me, sorry. I'm sorry, Leo. But yeah. I should probably come up with a better phrase. Any last things we have to say? Yeah, I remember something with that. I can't put a picture to it, but I remember seeing something on social media one time about it. That's a good few years ago now at that stage. But I remember hearing about it. Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think. I think it's nearly 10 years after. I think it must be the early 2010s when he went missing. Unfortunately, I can't remember the picture right now, but I remember hearing of him being missing. I don't think they ever did. I don't think they ever found him. Unfortunately, never did. The other sad reality, just to say before we go, I don't leave this on a sad note, is we do have to be grateful for what we have. You think about even that poor man's family at the moment in Iceland or even around the world. There's people that goes missing every day of the week, and there's that space left at Christmas that can't be filled. That the person's not there, and even people that pass away throughout the year, we don't. I don't think even across the world we don't appreciate the meaning of life. That life is such a precious thing, and we simply don't know what can happen tomorrow. And that's the thing, we have to appreciate the time that we're here, that the time we have to spend together as people, as friends and as families and stuff like that. We have to spend our time wisely, and as best we can. Because again, the sad reality is we never know what can come tomorrow. And it's important to remember that and to live life to the fullest. Because you just never know. And to appreciate, of course, your friends and family. You might have hard times and stuff like that, but it's always important that they always will mind you and look after you. And everyone should do the same. But it's important. It's the most important life lesson. If you learn anything from me throughout the years and things like that, it's look after your friends, look after your family, be a good person, help each other out, and never take life for granted. Always take life by the head and make the most out of it in every situation. And to always be appreciative. Of course, that's the one thing you need to understand. Just to be appreciative of life. It's important just to appreciate being alive and being able to see, being able to move your hands, to do basic things. People can't do that. And it's important to just think about that tonight as well and be thankful for it. Good, my good, and thank you.